The Russian Revolution of 1917 divided the world into two ideological camps, capitalist and communist. For the next 70 years, the communists would wage a war of words and images against their capitalist enemies. The goal? To capture the hearts and minds of the Soviet masses with disinformation. To turn them against the enemy, who they said ruthlessly exploited the average citizen. To turn them toward the state, run by peasants and workers, which cared about their welfare and guaranteed them health, education, and a shining future. A minority party with approximately 200,000 members, the Bolsheviks in 1917 assumed the leadership of 160 million people, scattered across the world's largest continuous landmass. They spoke more than 100 languages and were, for the most part, illiterate. Masters of visual propaganda, after seizing power, the Bolsheviks produced tens of thousands of political posters. Striking pictures and stirring slogans communicated party ideology. Lenin proclaimed cinema the most important art for promoting communist ideology. The animated war for the minds of the people began with short political commercials that delivered the state's message in a clear and entertaining manner. Shown in cinemas everywhere, they encouraged people to form collective farms and join the Communist Party. They promoted the state's tailored vision of Soviet history and fanned hatred of the Americans, the British, the Germans, the Japanese, and world capitalism. The country most regularly targeted by the animated propaganda films was the United States. It was important to keep the Soviet people, most of whom were locked up in the USSR, believing that they lived in the best country of the world. From the 30s to the end of the 70s, Americans were depicted as evil racists, unemployed, exploited workers, and warmongers.
When we saw very seldom American movies, Hollywood movies, with all these brilliant environment, cars and wealthy people, we were taught this is Hollywood backstage, this is only decoration, it's not a real life. They could make in Hollywood everything, but people are suffering. They're hanging black people.
In 1922, Vladimir Mayakovsky, the dashing propagandist and poet of the Bolshevik Revolution, received special permission to sail across the Atlantic. He landed first in Cuba, where U.S. corporations ran both the sugar and tobacco industries. His observations were memorialized in a poem called Black and White, which, using Mayakovsky's own drawings, was turned into an animated film in 1933.
I feel like a marvelous child, a long ways from home, a long ways from home.
Black and White tells the story of Willie, the old black shoeshine man. Willie makes the fatal mistake of asking the white sugar king, Mr. Brogg, why should white sugar be made by a black man?
Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long ways
concludes, poor Willie didn't know he could ask the Communist International for help.
Big Brother understood that it was not effective to show the whole country as a bad. So for us, America was divided in two parts. A big, fat Uncle Sam, capitalists, and poor working class, working people who are exploited, and black people, working people. And we were very sympathetic to black people. When first black people came to Russia in the 60s, we were so glad to meet them, and we were very friendly, more friendly to blacks than to whites, because we felt that they are our friend, they are closer to us than whites.
My great-grandfather Samuel Marshak wrote the poem Mr. Twister in 1933. In early 1920s, an American businessman came to Soviet Union and he wanted to stay in a hotel in Leningrad. And apparently when he saw a black person there, he immediately checked out. My great-grandfather found the story interesting and he wrote a poem that quickly became very popular and later on saved his life. In late 30s, during the terrible times of Stalin terror, when millions of people, mostly professionals, were killed, Stalin's hand, of course, reached to almost all of Marshak's co-workers. Of course, my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother were awaiting arrest, but it never came. And here, Mr. Twister came to the play. In 1937, when Stalin was given his daily list of future victims for approval, Marshak's name was on the list, and when Stalin went through it, he saw the name of Samuel Marshak and said, "Oh, Samuel Marshak, that's a good Soviet children's poet." And those words saved my great-grandfather.
Once a government minister, Mr. Twister now lives in Chicago, where he is a banker, owner of factories, newspapers, and ships. Mr. Twister decides to take a vacation with his family. They could go anywhere in the world, but daughter Susie insists on Leningrad. They sail to the Soviet Union on a ship for white people only. The only black people are down below, shoveling coal. They sail into Leningrad with their car, the Twister Mobile. They drive to the Angleterre Hotel, where Mr. Twister has made reservations. On their way to the rooms, a black man appears at the top of the stairwell. As he descends, his image doubles and triples and quadruples to many black people. All looking alike, all walking down the stairs. Enraged, the Twisters leave the hotel. The Soviet concierge recognizes that the Americans must be taught a lesson. He places calls to all the other Leningrad hotels. At each hotel, the bellman informs Mr. Twister, "Sorry, no rooms. No rooms. No rooms." Mr. Twister returns to the Angleterre. After the millionaire spends a night on the hotel sofa, he happily agrees to take a room in the hotel, even if the other guests are people of color. Ordinary Soviet citizens have successfully educated a rich American racist.
Soon after World War II ended, the Cold War began. An early victim was jazz, condemned as an enemy of the people and a bourgeois music born in the USA. The mass media carried out an anti-jazz campaign, and Soyuz Multfilm contributed by making a film for children called Someone Else's Voice.
A Soviet bird, a magpie to be exact, returns home from abroad. She gives a concert. Instead of singing traditional Soviet songs, she sings jazz. The Soviet birds are appalled by the sounds of the forbidden foreign music. They boo. And drive her from the forest.
It was very important for Soviet propaganda to show hostility of these capitalist surrounding, because we built very strong military industrial complex. We built a military country, and we were taught that we have to defend ourselves, not to invade other countries, but defend ourselves, because America wanted to invade Russia.
In 1972, Soyuz Multfilm produced Ave Maria, which was also known by the title Against American Aggression in Vietnam. It was made by Ivan Ivanov Vano, the Soviet Union's most renowned director of animated films for children.
На Боингах черных, порой воровскою ночною, наши мужья летят над чужою страною. Они превращают землю в пустыню кровавого цвета. Земля умирает, а конца войне этой нету. На Боингах черных, порой воровскою ночною, наши мужья летят над чужою страною. И плачут жены, и плачут дети за морем где-то. Мы слышим плач их, а конца в войне этой нету. На Боингах черных воровскими ночными часами мужья убивают людей и становятся мертвыми сами. И нам почтальоны повестки несут и несут на рассветах, повестки о смерти мужей, а конца в войне этой нету.
In the Soviet Union, having more money than your neighbor was evil. Gold was called the Yellow Devil. By contrast, in capitalist America, even a dog could become a millionaire.
A rich old lady dies. When the relatives gather for the reading of the will, they discover she has left her substantial fortune to her beloved dog. The orphan dog lives in a penthouse on Fifth Avenue. He has chefs, barbers, and live-in servants. He goes to chic nightclubs. Because he is rich, his style is widely imitated. He becomes a member of the Millionaire Club and a banker. He barks whenever he hears the word peace. He is interviewed by newspapers about Soviet spaceships and progress. And then the rich bulldog is elected to the U.S. Congress. Moral of the story? In America, money can buy anything.
We were sure that we lived in the best part of the world. We were taught and we believed in this because the rest of the world was depicted, designed as a hostile, as a terrible world with poor people exploited by capitalists. And in these animation movies, you will see how these enemies were depicted, how they are shown, very characteristic. And we believe that they are, like it was screened.
In Soviet propaganda films, when Americans weren't discriminating against blacks, they were looking for jobs.
Во-первых, конечно, американская действительность, показать ее, поскольку мы были абсолютно не были нигде за рубежом, не знали, что, чего и как. И основные, конечно, были моменты в журнале «Америка» с роскошными фотографиями. Потом ситуация комикса. Американский комикс – это целый вид искусства. Оказалось интересным сделать вот эту ситуацию комикс на анимационном мультипликационном экране. Причем нарочито там оставили надписи на английском языке, нет никаких реплик, только звуковой ряд, только музыка. И если говорить вообще об образном ряде, я страшно люблю Селлинджера, и помните, над пропастью ворожи герой, который всегда ходил в красной, дурацкой, охотничьей кепке с длинным козырьком. И у меня там герой как раз как бы выросший тот самый мальчишка с пропастью над ржи, который вдруг попал в большую такая ситуация. То есть здесь есть такая ниточка, на чем мы воспитывались. В первых книгах американских классиков Селлинджер, Хемингуэй.
An unemployed worker finally gets a job as a live target in a shooting range. The owner charges his clients double for the chance to shoot at a human being.
united forever in friendship and labor, our mighty republics will ever endure. The great Soviet Union will live through the ages, the dream of a people, their fortress secure. Long live our Soviet motherland, built by the people's mighty hand. Long live her people, united and free, strong in our friendship tried by fire. Long may our crimson flag inspire, shining